Hey, everybody. Welcome to MVP Gaming Podcast, episode number 9. We are here with the owner of MVP Gaming, Jason. Jason, how are you?
Swell. I have a bruise. As you can see, I have tape on my finger. I was cooking tonight for some people from church, and I was slicing some bread, and went in there and was like, "Oh, that's my finger. That's not the bread," and a little bloody, but that's okay.
Oh, there
Well,
we go.
here's to fast healing. I hope that you recover from this terrible, terrible incident.
Oh yes, I'm scarred. I'm scarred. How are you doing, DJ?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Everything's good. We streamed earlier today and had a little technical difficulties at the start, but we got it all figured out. So.
Yeah, I was watching your stream. It was really good. What are, real quick? We have our guests that we want to get to, but what are your thoughts on ESO now? I know at the end of the stream you had made some. Are we going to hold our tongue for that one? Okay.
Uh, I don't know. I love the community with Elder Scrolls Online, and I've been playing for 9-10 years, and so I've got a lot of people in our Discord for it, and I've worked with a lot of guilds and training them in PvP and stuff, but I just don't like where the game's at right now, and they don't take any feedback at all from the people that have been there a long time as far as like, hey, this is hurting the game, and they just want to go their direction, and there's nothing we can do about it. So it's their
Yeah.
game, not my game, and so I'll just find a different game, I think. So we've been having a lot of fun, my daughters and I, on Fortnite, and it looks like a whole bunch of the people that I game with like Smite as well. So we'll check that out, and everybody's kind of waiting for Ashes of Creation, see what's going on with that. So.
Yeah, and speaking of games, you said it's not your game. We actually have with us today two game developers of a new game that's available out on Steam right now. We have Elizabeth and Joseph, and Ensol. Did I say that correct? Is that right, guys?
Yep,
Yes, indeed.
Ensol.
Yeah, it's an Epic game that's available right now on Steam. There's the link to it. If I'm going to try to point to this with my bad finger down there.
Careful, don't, no more injuries.
No more injuries. On the QR code. So, yeah, welcome Elizabeth. Welcome Joseph.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys being on the show. Really do. And this is an awesome game. It's available on Steam right now. So, TJ, if you want, you could pull up Steam and do a search, ENSOL, and you can find this game. Either Elizabeth or Joseph, tell us a little bit about your game. But first, let's learn a little bit about you. Let's learn a little bit about who these mysterious developers of this awesome new game are. So, Elizabeth, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi. Yeah, my name's Elizabeth. I am one of the developers on Ensol. I primarily did coding and also the combat design on the game. And as for me personally, I have just graduated university. I have a degree in computer science game design, and I'm hoping to maybe someday, if I can manage it, end up working on something that ends up in the Game Awards or Game of the Year, something like that.
That's
That's the goal.
awesome. Congratulations on your graduation, by the way. That's fantastic.
Thanks.
Joseph, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
All right, I'm Joseph. I have also just graduated. I was the same year as Elizabeth, and that's why we worked together on this game. I got married shortly after. I've been married now for about a month, and I am currently working on moving towards Maine.
You mean the state?
Yes, the state of Maine.
Okay, well, I just want to clarify because when you're moving to Maine, that could be like moving to Main Street or Maine wherever, but that's up there. That's amazing. That's cool. What brought that about? And congratulations on your graduation.
Yeah.
Moving to Maine because my wife, she has a job position up there. I'm just out of college, so I don't have something lined up for myself just yet. So we're following her career.
Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's good that you're being so supportive. TJ is very supportive of his wife and his daughters. He's a big family man. I, on the other hand, just behold to no one but myself. No, I'm kidding. I don't, but whatever.
Yeah, don't let him fool you. Like he he's one of the first people to call you on the phone and see if you need help with anything and offer him whatever he can. So
I'm waiting
he's a
on phone
family
calls for
guy,
this.
extended. He's
Waiting,
extended
waiting
family
on phone
guy.
calls, family. Where's my phone calls? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Sounds like a good friend to have.
yeah. He's good people.
Thank you. That's kind of you to say. So, you guys just graduated. Was this part of the school project, or was this something that you decided to do? Like, tell us how the idea for Insole came about. Like, what the development came from, what it was like. I mean, just
Right. So, Ensol was our senior capstone project. Um, we worked on it from January through June of this year, so about 6 months.
wow.
And it basically it was the project that was our senior year final thing for our game design program. And we had people with a variety of different disciplines. So besides Joseph and myself, there were 7 other students who were helping us, and all kinds of different disciplines. We had one guy who was devoted to sound and just did all of the audio for our game and totally killed it, by the way. We had one who was pure writer, a couple other programmers, another 3D modeler besides Joseph. It's a very collaborative effort with lots of different people, lots of different hats. Um, but
How
I
did that
think, came out
work
a
with
real
so many
success.
different people and so many different hats? I know in the gaming world, and this is the gaming development world, but in the gaming world, when you get two people together, often there are conflicts and there's some toxicity and stuff, which we try to avoid here on this show. But how did those interpersonal relationships work when developing the game? Like, is it similar to some of the toxicity that can occur, or what do you guys do to stay positive and to stay above that?
It's really just being like open and direct with each other and being like, hey, this is my communication style, this is my like work ethic, and recognizing that of each other. And if anyone ever pushes a little bit too far, then having like a safe space to call them out and them recognizing it, apologizing, and taking a step back. Just lots of respect and understanding, basically. And I think that we were able to do this because we spent the first half of our capstone year kind of scouting out people to make a dream team for the second half of the year to make the game with. And that dream team wound up being exactly that. We were only one out of 2 teams to make a game that was able to be published on Steam out of the like 40 to 50 teams.
Wow, that's awesome.
Do you guys have if you could list like 2 games apiece that you enjoy playing, could and were you was those games, did they play a factor in like why you made decisions in this game from an artistic or gameplay or storyline?
Let's see. For me, I play a lot of World of Warcraft. I would also say, I mean, one of probably the first game that really made a mark on me was Skyrim.
Oh yeah.
Um, the uh, let's see here. The influence that those games would have on Ensol, I would say, is more limited. Most of the mechanics and design that we came about for Ensol was built off of we sat down, we're like, all right, so here's our narrative, here's the kind of aesthetic we want to do, here's how much time we have, and so what's practical for us, those kind of considerations. Although obviously, playing other games, I take notes, right? But I try not to, I try, oh, I should do this because this game did this and it was cool. It's better to see that this game did this and it was cool because it worked in this context and for these reasons, and that's the knowledge that I can transfer. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I like that. You don't, you're not poaching. You're just saying what is it works, why does it work, and how can I implement that into my project? Am I understanding that correctly?
Right, yeah, it's the process of understanding why something works and why it fits in this specific context. And so how can you figure out what works and what works in your specific context? That's the knowledge that I try to take.
That's cool. I love that.
As for myself, a game that is one of my favorites that really inspires me is a game called Outer Wilds, which I won't say any more about, or the community would lynch me. But it's a very story-driven game, and I really love stories in general and taking away like experiences from those games, and that actually did lead a lot into Ensol. I was one of the lead writers for it, and the pitch for Ensol was actually my pitch. And we, of course, the whole team built upon the original idea, but I am quite happy with the execution of that original pitch. And
So,
ultimately, Ensol is a game that is narrative combat adventure game.
Mm-hmm.
what was the
That
original pitch? What is some of it, a little bit about the game that you guys want to talk about? If you have, you have unlimited time, not unlimited time, you have unlimited time in the world
mhm.
on this podcast, but go ahead and pitch the game to our viewers who are thinking about this game and are wanting to go to Steam and they're wanting to check it out. What's your sales pitch to them as far as going and hitting the feeder button and buying the game, which you need to do? The QR code, I can't point, is down there. Go buy this game.
So
So,
the
if,
well,
if I can take this
yeah, go
one,
for it, go for it, go for it. It is your
okay.
pitch. I was just gonna say why I found it cool.
I can certainly follow up with that. But
Yeah.
the original pitch, the idea that I had was a a community that strived to make a solar punk utopia, but in their drive to make this utopia, they didn't stop to consider the dangers of the things that they were creating. And eventually, those dangers reared their head, and the same solar punk design creations that were functional and beneficial wound up becoming dangerous and problematic and um, turning against their creators in an unexpected way. And it was really interesting because when we went into designing the art style and the enemies for that idea, the first process, the first part of any design process is looking at references and ideas to take inspiration from.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't find very many references of any sort online for solar punk monsters. And so it almost felt like pathfinding to create our own subgenre and what that might look like and how that might function. What each enemy would have to have, like, be visually able to recognize what function that was supposed to be beneficial in, that on the other hand also encapsulates how it becomes dangerous if uncontrolled properly.
That's cool. I love that. So, yeah, most of the time I think of steampunk, I think of something that's dark, that's gritty, that's dirty. And so you're saying this is the opposite of that. This is something that was meant to benefit society, it was something to transform us to a higher level, and then the consequences in that. That's cool.
Right. You're on the right track with thinking about steampunk as like sort of this aesthetic for a society. Solar punk, which what we have, is a similar
Thank you.
idea. This concept for a society which is greener, like sort of technology working together with nature instead of against it. Um, you see like the archetypal solar punk image is the like big tall skyscraper that has its all of the balconies have their own like gardens built on it, and so the building also helps to feed everyone who lives in it, things like that. Um, and so it the our idea really was that this society that tried to achieve that harmony and sort of did, sort of didn't, not really in the way they expected or necessarily wanted to. It's something that's uncovered over the course of the game.
That's awesome. I love that. So what was your biggest takeaway? Like, I mean, you guys are now, like I said, you've published this game, and you're one of the few that actually had a project go to be published. Like, that's amazing. How, like, what was your biggest takeaway that you've learned that you hope to take then to that next level, that next step on your career?
Right. So, um, it is a whole process to go from an empty project in Unity to the games on Steam. And very much it's a lot of figuring out how to work with people, like you guys touched on earlier. Lots of different people, lots of different disciplines. That's the heart of game development. And being someone that is good and productive to work with is as big a thing in this industry as it is about, can you write the code? Can you make a cool looking model or art or whatever? And so that's a big part of it. There's also a lot of time management and logistics and scheduling that goes into it. So how do we stay on track? What can we identifying what we can actually do with the time we have? What's it's more effective to keep in or to cut or to change? And that's the kind of stuff you can only really get with doing it, with experiencing it. Um, and that is a hugely valuable experience, I think, going forward for my career.
That's awesome. I love that. Joseph, what was your biggest takeaway? What was your biggest, like, that you think that you're gonna, help you propel you to your next step in your next career?
Much of the same thing that Elizabeth mentioned. Uh, when I was entering into the game development, I was a very kind of jack of all trades person. But towards my more recent years, I've been focusing in to be specialized and highly capable in my specific field that I wish to go into, which is writing and potentially art as well. But I think it's still valuable to have that bit of knowledge of how the whole process works, because then that becomes important for communication. If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I need this kind of writing to go with this kind of system," I'll understand the system that they want and be able to provide them exactly the kind of writing that they want. There was a whole issue with another group that a friend of mine was in, where they had a really bad breakdown in what the art team and the programming team wanted from each other, because the programming team was using like the wrong word, and the art team was like, "Wait, do you want the words you're saying, or do you actually want this thing that we talked about?" And it halted their progress for multiple hours until they could get it sorted out what people actually meant. And so having that knowledge of the whole system and what people are asking for is very important for communication and making games effectively and more quickly and better.
For this project, was it always intended to go to market with it or to sell the game, or was it, well, we're here and we've got it. This is a polished product that we could sell. Let's do it. And then you had to explore that process and how to actually do that. Was it from day one?
We decided from the start, yes. We gathered up all our team members from people that we had worked with in the past primarily, and we all sat down. We're like, this is what we want to do. We're gonna have something that we're proud of and that we want to put on Steam, and we built our whole schedule with that in mind.
Okay. So now that you've done that, you've gone all the way through the full gambit from day one through to it's available on Steam now. Do you have another project that you're eyeing, or are you where are you guys at with that?
I believe both of us are currently, the current project is going out into the field and finding companies that are willing to take in new talent, passionate talent, and that will treat them well, and helping them with the projects that they want. and of course, eventually being able to work on larger projects and make things that win awards and become prize-winning works of art.
Absolutely. So, Blizzard, you hear that? You got two awesome developers, writers, designers, programmers, right here, Blizzard.
ZeniMax Online Studios, Elder Scrolls Online. Please
Yeah,
pick these guys up.
ZeniMax needs them. ZeniMax needs them.
Oh my gosh, yes, please.
I've played both of those, so I know the ins and outs already. I'm
There
your
you
Yep.
guy.
go.
There you go.
As
There
have
you go.
I. The
So, go ahead,
Hmm?
Elizabeth.
Oh, just to say, it's the job hunt is rough for entry level talent in game design because it's such a team based enterprise that people, I don't know, it feels better to their investors and to their own team to be like, oh yeah, I've worked with this person before, I can just pull them all from another company, and they don't like to take in, oh, I'd rather have my existing friend than some college kid off the side of the road,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's rough out there, but we're working through it. So
So,
hopefully.
in the way of keeping traction, do you turn out another game like this? Do you
Good
make
Yep.
question.
something else?
Yep, that's the job hunt goes on, and in the meantime, I'm talking to some acquaintances who have like a project they're working on as a hobby, and I am looking into doing game jams, like little 24-hour projects, things like that, just to keep making stuff.
That's cool. So, I think for our audience, now that we've learned a little bit about your game and everything, let's learn a little bit about the character behind the mask. Boo-doo-doo-doo. So, what is your introduction to gaming? Like, what brings you into gaming? Like for me, my some of my beginning stories were with Atari and Nintendo, and we've talked about some of those in the show before, TJ. But Elizabeth Joseph, what got you into gaming? What made you decide that you wanted to do this?
For me, I was introduced to gaming by my father on the first Xbox. My father was a big video game player, and so I would often play games cooperatively with him. And from there, I had lots of fun playing games. I thought I would try my hand at making them, and that led me to. I was fortunate enough to have a high school that offered some courses in game development,
Wow.
and I took those courses, found that it was something I enjoyed doing, and continued pursuing that into college and the rest of my life.
In my case, I had a childhood friend who he would all I would go over to his house and hang out, and he would be playing something on his console, on his Xbox or on his laptop, and I was enjoying just watching. And eventually, I think it was actually Minecraft when he picked up Minecraft, and I was like, I actually want to play this myself. That was the first time I actually played something on my own. But after I'd even enjoyed playing games a ton, I started to realize I was like, well, I wasn't just enjoying playing them. I watched them. Liked taking them apart in my head and figuring out,
Oh,
this mechanic made me happy. Why? How did that work? Or, I didn't think this was as well executed as it could have been. What was screwed up about it? Um, and I was like, oh, so I actually want to know how these work and put them together myself. And around when I was 13, I was like, yep, I'm going to go make games.
really?
And from there
13?
I did, yeah.
That's amazing.
I was that really, really weird kid who was like, I know what I want to do, and followed through with it.
It followed through with it, yeah.
And yeah, and so, I started doing summer camps, and then I took whatever programming and game design courses I could find in middle school and high school, and then went to college in a game design program, and now here I am.
I love that. That's awesome.
To flesh out mine a little bit more, one of the things that really drives me to producing games beyond just enjoying playing them is, and to the writing side of game development, is that being someone who loves stories myself and loving the experiences that I get from stories that reach down to my heart, I enjoy finding experiences like that and capturing those experiences. And video games are unique in the way that they are media that you engage with, you don't watch. And so they offer the unique opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to offer someone a story that they themselves are a part of, and that then makes it leave more of an impact on them. They might feel that they were involved and that they um, like felt the consequences of the events and the choices that they partook in. And I dream of sharing some of the experiences that I've imagined, capturing them in the form of a game and allowing others to experience them.
Couldn't agree with you more, Joseph. It's what I always say this, that like you can you go watch a movie or you read a book, but you play games. There's a difference in the interactivity there, that you can actually touch it with a game. Mm-hmm.
And play is huge, right? Because play is not only is it an emotional journey, or it can be an emotional journey as we're playing, as we're engaging, like you said, Elizabeth, but it's also some of the fundamental ways that we learn, that we first transform from childhood to adulthood. I mean, patty cake, as a baby, or um, color games, number games. I mean, that's the way that we interact with the world, that we see the world, that we learn about the world, is through play, is through games. And the medium by which we engage in those, whether it's, patty cake as a little toddler or as a video game when we're older, like, I still think that emotional impact that you guys are talking about is definitely there. And that's really cool that you see it that way.
Have
Right.
have either of you played the God of War 4?
Yes. Well, I haven't played. I've played part of it myself. I've watched full playthroughs as
Yeah.
well.
So the storyline and the character development on that, I think, is the hook for a lot of people, because you've got the young Kratos that is tricked by the gods, and then he goes on a rampage killing the Greek gods, and then he evolves into an older man that is trying to learn and be better, right? And the character development in that, and now he's a father that's trying to teach his son to be better, and that's something too. The story, the character development, and all of that. When you're talking about catching somebody, or hooking them,
Capturing an experience.
capturing, yeah, it's that character development, and that keeps them in the story, and they're involved in it, and their decisions play a role in how everything shakes out. I think that that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys could list one game as far as a large influence that it's been throughout your life, not necessarily you played it throughout your life, but just a big game as an influencer, and it doesn't have to be the one that we talked about earlier. But what would be an impactful medium in, or a game in this medium, that really impacted you, that had a long lasting effect? When we talked about what got you into gaming, but what's a standout game that you guys just think, I love the story, like we just mentioned God of War or something like that?
Right.
Well, for me, I think the most pivotal game in my life would have been Halo 3. Halo, the franchise itself, was the game that my father introduced me to, the first games that I played with him. But Halo 3, especially because not only was it a great story experience for me, but also it offered what was they called a forge mode, which allowed players to behave somewhat like a developer and play with the systems that make the game, the set elements to make their own maps, and the custom games options to change the rules and tweak the abilities. And in that way, uh, create a small snapshot of a new game.
That's awesome. I love that. Elizabeth, what about you?
Let's see. In my case, I sort of have two-ish in terms of the practical value of a lesson that a game has taught me. Like, I played this game, I learned something, and it matters to my life. It has to be World of Warcraft. Let me tell you, if you want to learn how to work with a team and manage group dynamics and, um, you know, get people who maybe you do or don't know as well to all work together towards something, you go join a WoW raid team. Uh, and that's a whole thing. And it's I would not be nearly as good at talking to strangers or at working with a group as I would be if I didn't have that. Um, in terms of personal emotional valuable value to me, I would say I mean a lot of games have had an impact on me over the years. In recent years, the biggest one is the two Ori games, Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is just this little critter who sort of does, sort of doesn't really understand what's going on, but he's trying to, help his friends and help his environment and make his little world, beautiful again after it's sort of fallen apart. And it's about like hope and resilience, and
Nice.
I just think it's a fantastic story.
That's awesome. I love that. I love any message of hope. I'm big on hope. I think that without hope, there's no point in anything. Like hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a better world. Like I think a lot of times, as you know, not often in that situation, definitely, you put that hope into the game, into the development, not only in terms of how it's successful or how it's received by the audience, but also some of the stories that you can tell, like Joseph, some of the stories you can write or whatever, hope-filled stories. And sometimes we write dark stories. Sometimes we write because we're full of emotion. But I'm big on flipping the script and keeping it positive and stories of hope. So I love that. I think that's fantastic. Um, so if you guys could, we'll give you a couple more minutes here, and then we're gonna kick you out. No, I'm kidding. Raid's coming due. No, so I'd like for you guys to give another plug for your game, and then a plug for anything that you want. Like if there's something that's near and dear to your heart that you're wanting to talk about, like I just talked about hope a little bit. If you guys want to collectively tell us one more thing about your game, and then a personal plug, just anything that you want to plug. It could be your neighbor, or it could be whatever you want.
um well, let's see, plug for Ensol. um this game really is a passion project of mine. I made it with some people who I didn't know and became very good friends of mine with some people that I did know already. But we all worked so hard on this, and our goal was to put something on Steam that we were proud of showing to you all, to everyone who played it. And I think we've done that. So if you want to check it out and give it a playthrough, it's not a terribly long experience. Maybe I would say hour and a half tops. It's pretty short. And leave us a review when you're done. That would make my day. I keep checking. I'm like, do we have another review yet? Do we have another review yet? I would love to see that.
Uh,
As for personal plugs and stuff, as I said earlier, I need a job and it's rough out there. And so I have I have my website. It's got my portfolio, got my resume, got my contact info. If you're making a game and you want to talk to me, or you need someone on your team, or you just want to talk about the industry at all, please shoot me an email. Um, would you guys prefer I like just read the link out, or
we'll put it in
how
the
do you want to do
description
this?
below. We'll put your. I want to put your email, but if you have a website that we can put in the link in the description of the podcast. So everybody at the very bottom, we're gonna have a link to her contact information. That way you guys can plug that in. Just like there's the link to I'm horrible at this, the game down below. We'll put it in the comment section below. So then that way you guys can reach out to Elizabeth, who is an awesome developer, who's awesome at making games.
I would definitely check out ZeniMax Online Studios. Last I looked, they had like 300 job openings because they were moving a lot of their developers and writers and everything over to a secret project. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wouldn't say that ESO is in maintenance mode, but they've reallocated. You know how you said that it's kind of clicky as far as who you've worked with, and you might as well continue to work with them. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like those people have all moved over to the new next greatest thing, and so now they're hiring for Elder Scrolls Online. I would check that out. There was 300 plus job postings when we looked at it just a week and a half ago. So
Yeah. It's been a minute since I had a look at their jobs board, so that's definitely a thing for me to do later this evening.
And they definitely need the help. They definitely need the help at ESO.
they do. Please give me a call. I can help on the balancing side of things for PvP.
Elizabeth, you need to work there and then call TJ and be like, TJ, now how do we fix this game?
Please
I'm
do.
kidding.
I mean, if they want to make me an offer, I mean, I'm right here. I'll come work for you, right?
There you go. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've been training PvPers for like 4 years in that game. I've played it since beta for like 10 years, and it breaks my heart because the community that we have, and I love that game. It's very special to me the same way World of Warcraft is special to you, the community. I played World of Warcraft for a long time, so I know exactly what you're talking about, putting trials together and stuff like that in the community. But it's the community that keeps you coming back, even when the game's not in a good place. And at some point, there's kind of a breaking point. But yeah.
Joseph?
Yes, for my final plug for Ensol, like Elizabeth said, it's short and sweet, but there's a little bit extra for players who do beat the game. I absolutely love Easter eggs, so there was no way I was going to make a game and not put some Easter eggs in it.
Spoilers.
Well, good luck finding them. They're pretty hard to find, but there
Took me a
is
while,
some
and I made it.
extra content for players after they beat the story of the game to enjoy for as long as they want to. And as for personal plugs, I don't just write for games. I also do general writing. I am an author, and I have a book series that is in development. The first 2 installments are published on Amazon. They're the Heroes of Gilinar book series.
Wow. And that'll be in the description below too. Give me that link and I'll put it in the description
Yeah,
below.
we need that.
Yeah, the book series I started very early in my career, so it's not my best writing ever, but I still stand by the plot line. But yeah, and I have a business email that people can reach me with. Should I mention that, or
No, that's fine.
probably just leave the
Yeah, you can mention that. Yeah, we'll put it in the description below. Now, just real quick though, you know, TJ and I were lucky enough to meet Elizabeth and Joseph from our mutual friend Rachel, who of course our audience is familiar with. She's helped us out with a number of things. She's an amazing person. And Elizabeth and Joseph, you guys both gamed with her in World of Warcraft. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any
The
fun
timing-
stories?
The timing of when I got into World of Warcraft more fully, because I played it for a long time, but very, very casually on and off, and then I became my main game around the end of Legion. When I logged back on, I was like, I've been playing the game for a couple of weeks. I need a guild. And I went through some guilds on the guild finder, just in the in-game guild finder. And the first one to get back to me, I got a message from Rachel. It's like, hey, you still need a guild? And I was like, yeah. She and the raid team at the time, because I didn't raid then, helped me get the Antorus head of the curve mount.
Oh, sweet.
And I joined the raid team after that. I've also played a ton of Overwatch with her. Yeah, she's a good friend of mine.
She's a sweetheart, isn't she? I just recently met her, this year, Jason?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't play World of Warcraft with her, but she actually made a trip here to St. Louis and went to church with us on a Sunday, and she's awesome.
Yeah, she is the nicest lady.
Yeah, I'm a more recent addition to the guild, but I'm sort of the friend of the friend who was invited to join. But in my interactions with her, yeah, I would definitely agree. Very sweet and just a generally very nice person all around from my interactions with them.
She says the same thing about the two of you. You guys are awesome. So she's mutual positive feelings. So any fun stories that like we're just talking about World of Warcraft real quick. What's a standout story of something fun that happened like during a raid or some event or something like that that's memorable?
I've got a good one for this. one of the things that I love about gaming in general, and something that was so fun, is that Elizabeth mentioned something called ahead of the curve, which is where you beat the current level of difficulty in the game before the next like tier of content in the game comes out. So basically, you beat the boss of the game while it's at its hardest. And our guild was working towards this goal, and it was getting pretty close to the deadline for the next expansion piece to come out, and so the ability to get ahead of the curve would no longer be possible. And that day, we had someone who joins us like on occasion. They kind of are like a visitor in our guild, and they are from South America.
Brazilian.
And
They're
like,
Brazilian.
yes, and they're like, hey, I see you guys are currently trying to get ahead of the curve. Mind if some of my guild comes in and tries with you? And we were like, sure. And so at that point, half of the guild was from United States and the other half was from Brazil. And like, we had interpreters conveying strategies across to each other. And we started fighting the boss and we beat it, and a whole bunch of us got the achievement, and it was such a like great memory of like this cross country community effort to beat the boss, and that it succeeded.
That's epic. I love that story. So they were speaking Portuguese, and you had interpreters for the Portuguese, and you're going through.
Yeah,
don't stand in the bad stuff.
Yeah, well, because we had the guy who, he was a random who had joined us when we needed to fill before, and then I invited him to come back later and added him to my friends list and all that, and so he spoke decent enough English and also Portuguese. His guild knew barely any English, and so I am raid leading, like trying to tell them, all right, here's how I want this to go, and he's in text chat like translating. And it was a greatest crossovers in movie history moments. But yeah,
that's
that was
huge.
a fun one.
That is fun. That's awesome. Elizabeth, do you same story, or do you have another one that you wanted to share?
Well, let's see. My funny story was more Rachel specific. I've known her.
Oh, we're getting the dirt.
For years.
We're getting the dirt.
I've been friends with her for what, almost 6 years now. And let's see, World of Warcraft doesn't like you trying to kill your own party members.
What?
And so of course I have to see if I can try and find my way around that. And in the recent Shadowlands expansion, they made a toy where you could turn into a slime and run someone over and pick them up, and they would drag them along with you. And so there were a lot of times around the entrances of every major dungeon, I very quickly knew exactly where all the cliffs were. And so did Rachel. Because I would kidnap her and try to, take her over the edge with me.
Cliff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rachel, the crash test dummy.
Yep. Yeah, it wasn't limited to just her, but she knew.
Yeah, we're all aware of Elizabeth's tendency to try to kill members of the group whenever possible. I've striven to become her antithesis, the one that will always try to save them and that they can trust.
Are you even trying to raid lead if you're not trying to kill your?
That's what I'm saying.
Now,
yeah.
I will never sabotage like an actual attempt on the boss, obviously. But if we're standing around outside a dungeon, you better believe I'm looking through my list of toys. Like, what can I do? What can I do?
I want to see you scoop somebody up that's standing in red with that, and you're like, get out of the red, get out of the red, get out. Never mind, I'll just change into this and just come in and scoop.
No, that's my job.
Yeah, he's playing Evoker. He's got the rescue ability.
Yeah.
I have a priest, and if I were better at it, I would learn how to use the life grip ability better and drag people over to me. And maybe put them in some precarious situations.
Do you guys have a PvP group? PvP
We
section?
don't. We don't. I have a hard time with PvP. I like it. It almost feels like this grand strategy thing of trying to, run them out of their cooldowns before you run out of yours. But I'm not good at it, and it goes too quickly for me to get my head around it, and I'm better at PvE anyways, so that's mainly what I do.
Yeah, PvP is its own beast in MMOs.
Yeah, it is. And I think they did a good job with the balancing of the PvP and the PvE by separating the gear. So, because I played World of Warcraft for 8 years or something, and Wrath of the Lich King was my heyday when the um, uh, I played a Blood DK, and so
Hmm.
and I would solo queue into arenas, and I would queue into arenas, and my partner would just stay out, and I'd go in and then just fight everybody, and I got a lot of hate whispers from that.
No.
Bringing tanks into 2v2 or 3v3 is a little bit. These days
Yeah,
it's paladin. You bring a paladin in there, it's like, what are
what are you
you kidding me?
doing?
A protection paladin? What am I supposed to do? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and the silly thing, when the DKs came out, they were not balanced really well, obviously, because that's how you sell the next new greatest thing. And so the blood DKs, even to be a tank, was I could kill people on it. So
uh-huh.
have all the durability of a tank, and then the ability to kill people too. So
What hardware are you guys running? What kind of rigs you guys got? You guys still running Macs from school, or what kind of I mean, if you're doing game development, what kind of
Yeah.
hardware are you guys running?
Um, I loathe Macs personally because you can't play games on them. Apple is very restrictive about software on Macs, and so it's a slightly more of a hassle to make software on Macs, at least in my experience. Um, there's a reason a lot of games come out as Windows only first.
Yeah.
I built my computer. I've got a desktop.
Really?
Yep. I have a AMD Ryzen 5 and a 3070 Ti for my GPU.
Nice.
Um, have two monitors. I might get a third, maybe, if I find money somewhere. Um, yeah. And I run 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is probably more than I need, but it gives me a lot more headroom and makes things a bit smoother when I'm developing as well. So,
For your multi-monitor, when you're developing and everything, is it like you have windows everywhere and you're just going to town?
yep.
Oh
Yep,
yeah.
I have a 1440p that's my main monitor, and then I have a 1080p that's my, secondary monitor, and I always have on my second monitor like Discord and, whatever, like Google Chrome, whatever tabs I need up on there, and then whatever I'm mainly doing is on my main computer. I always have Discord open on my second monitor too, so I can always see it if someone messages me.
And anytime you finish the current part that you're working on in a game, you go through the cleansing ritual where you click over to your Google window and you close the 30 tabs of things that you were researching to make what you were trying to do work.
I
Some
love it.
some people some people have so many tabs open, and I don't understand it. Just X out of Chrome. You don't need them. So what if I need this specific YouTube video later? You don't.
he's waving
It's
his
like,
hand.
yeah,
He's
this is
like,
directed at
That's
Joseph.
me.
that's
That's
totally
me.
me.
Some people,
Yeah, some
What's the
people, right?
tabs?
People.
You're
Yeah.
using all that RAM, and for what?
It's hilarious.
Research.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
but speaking of the RAM, I'm much worse at paying attention to what all of my exact computer specs are. But that's because I have a strategy that I use where what I do is I'll look up what the current recommended specs are to play high-end VR games, and then I'll just buy a pre-built computer that has those specifications. Because if you can run high-end VR, you can run anything.
Nice. I like it. That works.
Hmm.
Hey, can we expect any new chapters, anything for Insult? Or you can't say?
I would say for the most part, we're pretty much finished with it. Obviously, if we have like serious bugs reported or anything like that, we can revisit it at that point. But our goal with Ensol was just to be, we've made this thing, we've put it out there, and then to, all move on to our careers once we graduate.
So no
That
no horde mode for Ensol. Or
well,
oh oh
there's that
That's sort
extra
of-
mode that I
well.
mentioned after you beat the game.
okay. All right.
Nice.
Now we're
And
talking.
but yeah, we pretty much plan to like have it be a completed game that wouldn't need to be in like a live service hell. Um, uh, and like we didn't really have plans to make a sequel to it, but we did toss around some ideas of what a sequel could be, and if Ensol somehow becomes like wildly successful,
After this
uh,
show, why would it not?
yeah, if everyone's like, oh, I love this game, and then recommended it to 100 other people to play it, and if there was just like huge demand for it, we probably our hand would
I
be
mean-
forced. We'd have to make an Ensol too.
Well, if it takes off somehow, then sure. I think personally, what's more likely to me is that you'd see like, some members of the Ensol team working on other projects together.
And I hope you guys do. I hope you guys have that opportunity to work on other projects and that you're able to continue in the industry and everything. We want to thank you guys for coming out and doing this podcast with us. Really appreciate it, Elizabeth and Joseph. Everybody, check out Ensol. Check out if I can. I'm gonna go like this.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. That works.
So check out the QR code. You got the image on the left. Elizabeth and Joseph, we really appreciate you guys coming on, plugging and doing this game, the development time that you spent on it. Really appreciate everything. So thank you so much for being here. TJ, last words?
Bye.
Bye all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who plays our game.
That
Yes,
too.
buy
Yes.
the game. Buy the game.
I'm gonna drop it in every one of the discords I'm in, just so
Yeah.
you guys know.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.